I'll probably link to like a Michael Tracy article or something complaining about the debate, and then you can also imbibe all the correct opinions. This is a Thanksgiving episode, effectively.
Yeah.
So since most of our listeners, I assume, are vaguely libertarian or somehow on the right or some other weird thing. I'm sure Thanksgivings with family, assuming that you still have families. They weren't all shot in an alley by Joe Chill. That's another thing we got to discuss. The Joker movie later. So, just so you know, there is someone out here with the correct opinion. So, in fact, just during Thanksgiving, just put on, noise-canceling headphones and listen to us, and you can pretend that it's the two of us at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah,
and
that's why we put out this free episode for the freeloader fans who don't subscribe to more minority-supporting listeners. Because we know that they don't have families. They have nothing going. Let's be honest. Those listeners, they got nothing going on.
No, I like to think that we're cultivating more of a trad libertarian.
Why do you like to think that?
It makes me feel good inside.
In your mind, our audience is on the bloomer, doomer, zoomer, boomer scale. Where are they? Are they more what? Bloomers?
Sure, something.
See, I thought they were more doomer, coomer, zoomers. Okay,
stop saying these words. No, I definitely imagine more that our listeners live a sort of Leave It to Beaver-esque existence. They have like the white picket fence suburban house. They gather the family around, like, come on, kids, get into the living room. The more minority, the kid's like, wow, Dad, you think they're going to talk about the debate? And then, he tunes the radio trying to get the right thing. And then, it's like, hello. It's like, it's him, it's Marcel. And then, they just sit around and just.
I love it's just Marcel. That's all they're listening for.
Oh, it's.
Hey, it's Marcel. Hey. Fuck you, by the way. I'm sitting right here.
Don't worry, because you know what? Then the mother says, and Dan, just like that.
Yeah, I love how the mother's the one who says, and Dan. Thanks. The broad is the one who wants to listen to me.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Their opinions are always right. Unbelievable. I shouldn't surprise me anymore. The only reason he does this podcast is so that he can put headphones in where he can hear his own voice in his ears.
Yes.
If we weren't recording the podcast, you'd just be sitting in a little room singing to yourself. And that's not even a joke.
I probably said the phrase, yes, that's exactly right, 12 times since the episode started, because you're just constantly saying correct things.
Yep.
Which means I'm rubbing off on you.
That's very nice of you. What's our next story?
Okay, our next story is that Donald Trump is getting impeached. Now, this is one of those stories where I struggled to keep track at all, even though it's been going on for a month, because it's just another thing.
What do you mean? He's being impeached for conspiring with the Russians?
Yeah. We've really come full circle. Now, Donald Trump was conspiring with the government of the Ukrainian region of the Russian Empire. So as the story goes, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, who does not speak Ukrainian and has no experience running an oil company, was given several $100,000, like a six-figure income at a Ukrainian gas company.
Yeah.
The Ukrainian government suspected some kind of corruption was occurring. They investigated him, and Joe Biden openly said that he leveraged pressure on the Ukrainian government to fire the investigator that was investigating his son. Donald Trump was on the phone, and as the story goes, Donald Trump was withholding military aid from Ukraine until they reopened the investigation into Joe Biden.
Yes.
And this was, you can always tell when Americans are learning a new word because they start using it all the time. In this case, our word of the day is, our term is quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo.
Yes. And I'm seeing New York Times articles like the pro quo isn't needed, just the quid is fine. And yes, that's actually completely adequate, but I have a feel like the American people are not intellectual, to put it mildly. Right? It was like, it's a quid pro quo. It's a quid pro quo. Like, tell me, directly translate that for me.
Can I make a point about this, by the way? Because I'm going to directly translate it for the viewers. For the viewers, a quid pro quo, it's like a Japanese sushi dish, right? No, it's basically a favor in exchange for another favor.
Yes.
Here's what I don't understand. They say, was there a quid pro quo? In the sense of, was there an agreement, implicit or explicit, that you will not get any aid unless you do this thing that I'm allowed to ask you to do, which is investigate this Ukrainian situation because there's a treaty between the two countries that allows them to do that. So the first thing is, literally every time the president of the United States talks to anyone, there's a quid pro quo. When does the president, especially Trump, any president though, is talking to you, going, hey, I need you to do something for me, and there's no implied quid pro quo, because even if the quid pro quo implication is just that if you do this for me, you'll be on my good side. So I don't understand that, but
yeah. In fact, Donald Trump ran as the quid pro quo president. I mean, that was
he's making deals.
He literally wrote a book. Well,
he didn't literally write a book, but he read a book.
His face is on a book with his name on it. Cool.
It has the word deal right on it.
Yeah, it has the word deal.
It might as well be called the art of the quid pro quo. That's what a deal is.
I mean, that's what politics is. Trading political favors is what politics is. Right? I mean, he's chief executive.
You can't impeach a guy for doing politics.
That is the most presidential thing.
It would be like if they impeached him for sitting in the behind the Resolute desk.
Yeah, it's like, did you know that Donald Trump tried to, we give this country,
did you know that Donald Trump told the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, that if she changed some provision of a law, he would be more apt to sign that law?
Whoa.
It's like, yeah, that's the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. Just wait till you hear about budget omnibus bills.
It's so ridiculous. But
let's be a little mildly fair. If you really wanted to make this a crime, you would say this wasn't any ordinary quid pro quo. This is an advanced quid pro quo, because it is not as if Joe Biden is just some guy, which automatically, but Joe Biden is in fact a potential candidate for president in an upcoming election against Donald Trump.
Yeah, here's the thing I don't get about that, though, right? So I understand the logic of that perfectly, that he's investigating his potential political rival. Does that mean that if I'm Joe Biden and I commit a crime, I engage in acts of corruption, so it would be legitimate for the new president to investigate this if I wasn't running for president, but if I'm running for president, then it's no longer legitimate for him to investigate it? Does that mean that if I'm an ex-vice president, all I would have to do to shield not only myself, but the entire administration of which I was a part from any possible inquiries into wrongdoing is to run for president? And now the president can't look into it because it's improper.
Yeah, so if Donald Trump wants to evade any kind of consequences, he'll resign as president, he'll let a primary process happen, and then he'll just keep running third party and do a half-hearted campaign just to ensure that he's continually in the election, and therefore everybody who could investigate him is a political rival. As though the Washington political establishment is not his political rival right now.
Well, it's hilarious. Would they say this? Yeah, would they do the same thing? So if
do we even listen? Whatever scenario you're trying to construct, if Democrats didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all.
So anyway, the other thing that Scott Adams pointed out was that supposedly, my understanding at least, is that there's a treaty between the United States and the Ukraine that allows them.
I was making a joke. Apparently, it's very important that you not call it the Ukraine. It is simply Ukraine.
You're right. The Ukraine implies it's still a part of Russia. It's a region, whereas Ukraine implies it's its own country. So anyway, there's a treaty between the United States and the Ukraine. And that treaty, my understanding, according to news reports that I've skimmed, who am I kidding? Basically, the equivalent of rumors I've heard is that there is investigative sort of sharing between the two that, hey, I need you to look into this, or hey, could you give me information on that, or whatever. And then they share that information between each other. So that it would be well within the rights of the president to ask the president of Ukraine, hey, there's this thing that happened in Ukraine that I think is relevant to an investigation I want to look into. Could you give me information? What Scott Adams pointed out was that supposedly Trump, his first opening, according to this idea, his opening salvo was, give me the information and I will give you money. When he said, a good question is, when does Trump ever make his first offer? Trump's first offer is always, give it to me for free.
That's indeed actually what Donald Trump's defense is at this point.
Yes.
He said
when
he's been
does Trump
saying there's
ever
no quid
make
pro
his
quo.
opening offer anything other than give me what I want and I will give you nothing?
Yes.
That's the biggest complaint about Donald Trump before he became a political figure was that he does not pay his vendors or pay back debtors because he likes to get things for free. He doesn't like actually quid pro quo. What he likes is just give me shit. That's that's what he calls the art of the deal, is that you make it look like it's a quid pro quo, but really they don't get anything.
Yeah, it's just quid.
It's just quid.
It's as the New York Times says. And that's Donald Trump's defense. And actually, he wrote this down because an intrepid reporter for Who Cares snapped a photo of Donald Trump's notes written in like 64-point font on a sheet of paper of his talking points, and it was like there was no quid pro quo, no collusion. It was shorter than a tweet. The notes he had, and they were in such big letter.
My God!
You could really think that Donald Trump intended a photo to be taken.
Is that the handwriting?
I guess. I'm concerned about Donald Trump's vision. Actually, this lends credence to my idea.
He definitely. Now I'm tempted to say if he wrote it that big, he wrote it knowing it would be taken picture of
or something. I actually unironically think that Donald Trump has some kind of reading disability. This possible. Is my own private theory because of his aversion to teleprompters. And he's constantly remarked as not wanting to read notes of any kind.
So you think he maybe can't read, or he's dyslexic or something?
Yeah, I think he's dyslexic, actually. Yeah.
I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. This is the final word from the president of the U.S.
Yes.
Which is, as far as I understand, is a quote from him.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Isn't that my understanding is that that's actually something he said?
Yes.
Because I watched a little bit.
Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. See, that was too much. I don't think that Donald Trump has ever even uttered the phrase "do the right thing." I'm pretty sure that's foreign out of his own mouth. Not just as a politician, and not just as, evil bigot Donald Trump. I mean, just listen to his personality.
Yeah.
We know he's a New York. Even the phrase the only time New Yorkers say the phrase "do the right thing" is when we're quoting that movie. Right. And that means we're about to burn down a pizza shop or a barber shop or something.
Yeah, exactly. As we're about to throw a metal trash barrel through a pizza shop window.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And Donald Trump's defense is like there was no quid pro quo. I just told them to do what I wanted. There was no offer for
a little of the hearings, and literally all I could make of it was they would bring up people who I've never heard of. They'd bring up some guy and they'd go, here's some guy. You've never heard of him, but trust me. Oh, boy, is he important. And then they go, and here's some lady. You've never heard of her, but oh, man, she's important. And the only thing I took out of it was, who are all these fucking people in the White House who we've never heard of who just have jobs? Why aren't these people all fired? But like my anarchist libertarian thing was coming out because I was so distracted by who are all these people that I didn't even care about whatever the scandal was supposed to be. Because to me, the scandal was, how are there this many employees at the White House that I've never heard of? Fire all these people. They all have pensions. This is expensive. But it was just somebody saying, a Republican would read that quote of Trump saying, I don't want anything. And then they'd read a quote from Zelensky saying, Trump didn't withhold aid and he didn't pressure us. And then they would say, what do you say to that? And the guy would go, oh, I don't know. And then a Democrat would say, but what do you think Trump was thinking? And they'd go, oh, I think he was thinking that he was going to commit crimes and do evil. And then they go, oh, we got him now. And it just seems so stupid because they had the exact same facts, and the Democrat would hold up that fact and then say, doesn't this show, when he says, I just want him to do the right thing, we all know that's wink, wink. That's him saying, it'd be a shame if you didn't do the right thing, the right thing. And it was just mind reading.
It's Donald Trump walking into a store and saying, got some nice stuff. Wouldn't it be a shame if something happened?
But the problem with that is that's mind reading.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Cohen did this.
There's literally the difference between me saying to you, hey, Marcel, this is a really nice store. It would be a shame if anything happened to it. And me saying, Marcel, this would be a really nice store. It would be a shame if anything happened to it while punching my fist into my palm. The only difference between those is what you take it to mean.
That is, in fact, why mobsters say it like that.